Chapter 371. Xiao Yi. What is your motive? Donghuang Baiji suddenly asked Xiao Yi. In actuality, this was what Qingye wanted to ask. This Xiao Yi's wife was hounded to death by Yi Hua's subordinates, and right now, he was helping someone else to kill Tang Wushuang's wife. What does this count as? Xiao Yi's behavior made Qingye a bit disappointed. To quarrel with her husband just because of him, it doesn't seem to be worth it. If Yi Hua were to know what Qingye was thinking, he would definitely scold her. Now that he knew he was wrong, what had he done back then? I am your husband. Even if I become the enemy of everyone, you have to stand behind me and support me silently. Xiao Yi took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Tang Wushuang tried to kill me back then, so I want to kill him. Yet another person who does not place this empress in his eyes. Donghuang Baiji said coldly. Xiao Yi quickly explained, Your Majesty, Xiao Yi wouldn't dare, but this is a rare opportunity, so I have to gamble. Then, how did you feel when you saw an innocent woman die? Donghuang Baiji asked faintly. In actuality, this was the question that Qingye wanted to know. Yi Hua, who was within the crowd, naturally knew that Xiao Yi was not a good person. Qingye, you are really stupid. Xiao Yi's expression slightly changed. Quan Anrong's death reminded him of his wife, but for the future of the Xiao family, he had to do this. Xiao Yi calmly said, I don't feel anything. Qingye, who was standing at the back, revealed a disappointed expression. Xiao Yi's way of doing things was no different from Yi Hua's subordinates, killing someone else's woman. I suddenly feel that sometimes, Yi Hua is right. Perhaps it was really his fault. Donghuang Baiji nodded her head, then let Yu Quan announce their punishment. Yu Quan said to the four of them, I will now carry out your punishment, and you can only accept it. Otherwise, bear the consequences. Yes. The four of them kowtowed and listened to the coming punishment. Yu Quan said faintly, Tang family and by family went against Voidless Realm's order and had a bloodbath in private. From now on, you are not allowed to run for the position of an aristocratic family. The scene was in an uproar. The consequences of a fight were so serious. This was too exaggerated. Of course, Donghuang Baiji had to punish Voidless Realm severely. This matter was related to Voidless Realm's face, and what they did was equivalent to slapping Voidless Realm's face. How could Donghuang Baiji possibly let Voidless Realm off lightly? Bai Cixin and Tang Wushuang thought that this was the only punishment, and they let out a sigh of relief, then said in unison, Thank you, Your Majesty, for not killing us. Yu Quan shouted, I haven't finished yet. This is the first crime. Everyone, Bai Cixin and Tang Wushuang hurriedly lowered their heads. Through Voidless Realm's evaluation, the three family heads are not suitable to control ancient godly items. In order to avoid harming commoners, the three family heads' ancient godly items will be taken back. Yu Quan's following words caused everyone to be shocked. Take back the ancient godly item. This was too overbearing, too unreasonable. After all, someone had risked his life to obtain this ancient godly item. How could he just hand it over just like that? Everyone was watching the movements of the three family heads. Xiao Yi couldn't believe it. He had to take back his Xianyuan sword just because he was involved in the aristocratic family competition. They were simply robbers. This was clearly an excuse. I, Xiao Yi, am not convinced. Bai Cixin slowly stretched out her palm, and the 9-story demon tower appeared in her hand. Black fog immediately swirled around it. Yu Quan opened his palm, and the 9-story demon tower landed on Yu Quan's hand. Although it was just a blink of an eye, this caused everyone to become gloomy. They had experienced the power of Voidless Realm. If I tell you to hand over the ancient godly item, you have to hand it over. Bai Cixin's choice was very wise. Tang Wushuang. Yu Quan shouted. Tang Wuxuang explained, during the fight yesterday, I lost my ancient godly item. Lost? Everyone present didn't believe it. Tang Wuxuang definitely hid it. Didn't you hug such an important thing to sleep with, and you actually lost it? Who are you trying to bluff? Tang Wuxuang. If you dare to bluff the Empress again, everyone in your Tang family will have to die. Yu Quan let out a murderous aura. This Tang Wuxuang is too unreasonable. If I hand over the ancient godly item right now, I will still be able to keep my life. Tang Wuxuang was greatly startled and said in fright, Your Majesty, this lowly one doesn't dare to speak a single lie. Yesterday, my beloved wife was injured, and at that time, my mind wasn't clear. I don't know where the ancient godly item went, Your Majesty, please believe in my words. Bai Cixin snorted, Your Majesty, you mustn't believe in Tang Wuxuang's words, he just wanted to keep it for himself. Bai Cixin. Don't spout nonsense. You know what you are doing. Bai Cixin sneered. Yu Quan looked towards Donghuang Baizhi. Donghuang Baizhi said faintly, Tang Wuxuang, if I find out that you are lying, I will definitely not forgive you. A mirror could be seen appearing in Donghuang Baizhi's hand. Everyone was puzzled. Donghuang Baizhi said coldly, This is an ancient godly item, mirror of truth. It is able to display the image in one's mind. Tang Wuxuang, this is the last time I am asking you. If I find out that you are lying, this is a crime worthy of extermination. Tang Wuxuang doesn't dare to lie to Your Majesty. Tang Wuxuang's insistence made everyone believe him. At this moment, only an idiot would deny it. All right. Along with Donghuang Baizhi raising her hand, the mirror of truth appeared in front of Tang Wuxuang. Tang Wuxuang looked at himself in the mirror, then slowly closed his eyes and searched for the memory of last night. As expected, an image appeared in the mirror. When Tang Wuxuang saw that his beloved wife was injured, he hurriedly ran over. The ancient godly item in his hand indeed fell onto the ground, then mysteriously disappeared. The image disappeared. Donghuang Baizhi kept the mirror of truth. This Tang Wuxuang didn't lie, but where did the ancient godly item go? This is too strange. Xiao Yi. Yu Quan shouted out towards the depressed Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi was struggling in his heart. If he were to hand over Xianyuan's sword, Xiao family's strength would definitely suffer a great loss. Furthermore, Xiao family's strength would also stop at the level of a family. Voidless realm is trying to cut off all of my thoughts. Yu Quan shouted out gravely once again, Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi slowly raised his head and asked, Your Majesty, Xianyuan's sword is mine. Before Xiao Yi could finish speaking, Yu Quan interrupted him, hand over Xianyuan's sword. The atmosphere of the scene immediately became depressed. Xiao Yi's face alternated between white and red, and a struggle could be seen on his face. Since Tang family and Bai family's ancient godly item has already been taken away, the accomplice's ancient godly item must definitely be taken back. This was also Donghuang Baizhi's intention. In the end, they only have themselves to blame. Yi Hua, who was within the crowd, felt that there was nothing wrong with this kind of punishment. However, this punishment was still too light. What is the point of keeping a subordinate who doesn't obey orders? Because sooner or later, that subordinate will definitely rebel against you. After all, he once didn't put you in his eyes. Especially the current Xiao Yi. Although he was struggling in his heart, but thinking about it carefully, what was he struggling for? He was struggling to obey voidless realm. Chapter 372. Looking at Tang Wuxuang, he immediately handed over the sword. It's just that, Xiao Yi regarded Xianyuan's sword too seriously. Back then, even though the situation was so urgent, Xiao Yi still did not hand over Xianyuan's sword, and because of this, he even fell out with Tang Wuxuang. Xianyuan's sword was Xiao Yi, and asking Xiao Yi to hand over Xianyuan's sword was equivalent to handing over his soul. If a person were to even sell his own soul, could he still be considered a complete person? Everyone looked at Xiao Yi. Could it be that this person is planning to fight against Voidless Realm with his own strength? If that's the case, I am thinking too much. Xiao Yi could be heard saying softly, I am killing for the prosperity of my family. Is there anything wrong with that? Everyone was indeed very shocked. This is questioning Voidless Realm's prestige. If Xiao Yi doesn't shed a layer of skin and go out, no one will believe it. Yuanda shouted out angrily, impudent. To actually dare to question the Empress's order. Did I say anything wrong? This Xianyuan sword is something that I, Xiao Yi, exchanged with my life, and you, Voidless Realm, want me to hand it over with just a single sentence. I refuse to accept this. Xiao Yi immediately took out Xianyuan's sword. This action caused everyone to take a step back and look at Xiao Yi, who had lost his rationality vigilantly. To actually take out a weapon in front of the Empress, Yihua rejoiced that he fired Xiao Yi. Having a servant like Xiao Yi is just a loss of face. Donghuang Baiji was much stronger than Xiao Yi, let alone Qinya. A green rope suddenly appeared and hooked around Xiao Yi. Ah! Xiao Yi let out a painful scream, and the Xianyuan sword in his hand fell onto the ground. At this moment, all of the family heads looked at Xianyuan's sword that was on the ground. If I were to hold on to Xianyuan's sword, how great would that be? However, they were just thinking about it. Even if I have the life to hold on to it, I won't be able to enjoy it. Yuquan stretched out his palm and kept Xianyuan's sword. Donghuang Baiji said faintly, Xiao family Xiao Yi has no respect for this empress and even challenged my dignity. Remove the title of your family and cripple all of your cultivation. Removing the title of his family was already cruel, but to cripple all of his cultivation, what was the difference between this and killing him? For powerful people, losing their power was more painful than killing them. It was like a billionaire going bankrupt overnight. Those who could not bear it would collapse immediately. And Xiao Yi was still thinking about increasing his cultivation so that he could revive his wife. Hearing Voidless Realm's punishment, Xiao Yi struggled and shouted out, I refuse to accept this. You have no right to cripple me. Donghuang Baiji snorted coldly, in the northern cultivation world, I, the Empress, am the one with the highest authority, and my words are the law. I don't need to explain anything to anyone. Looking at Donghuang Baiji's cold and arrogant expression, Yihua suddenly felt like teasing Donghuang Baiji. Donghuang Baiji is even more pretentious than me. At the same time, Donghuang Baiji was also telling everyone that they better behave themselves, Voidless Realm's dignity must not be trampled on by anyone. Qinya, who was at the back, didn't say anything to stop him. No! Xiao Yi cried out. Xiao Yi regretted telling Qinya those things, and he regretted leaving them. If those things didn't happen, they would definitely help him now. Then he could keep the Xianyuan sword. How regretful. These were all stupid decisions. It wasn't shameful to ride on someone's coattails. What was shameful was that they still had to maintain their dignity after doing so. Donghuang Baiji slapped her palm towards the bound Xiao Yi, and her palm landed solidly onto Xiao Yi's chest. Puff! Xiao Yi's eyes went wide and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. The spiritual energy in his body had been scattered. It was useless to gather it again. Without spiritual qi, he would at most be stronger than an ordinary person. Voidless Realm is going too far. Xiao Yi was burning with rage, and he continued to anger Donghuang Baiji. Pull him down. Donghuang Baiji said faintly. Whether he would live or die would depend on the quality of his body. It was not impossible for a normal person like Xiao Yi to fight 100 battles, but he would lose half his life. The truth was that ordinary people had their own benefits. With the power of the Shao clan's businesses, they could eat for dozens of lifetimes. However, this was not the life Shao Yi wanted. Returning to the immortal emperor realm was his goal. But now, it was impossible. A few guards carried Shao Yi to the side and pressed him down on a bench. Iron rods appeared in their hands. It was not a wooden stick. Paw! The iron rod fiercely landed on Shao Yi's butt, instantly tearing his pants. One had to know that the executor was no ordinary person. When Shao Yi tasted the power of the rod, he suddenly felt dizzy and couldn't breathe. And this was only the first strike. Paw! Another rod landed, and Shao Yi coughed out a mouthful of blood. It was only 2 strikes, and Shao Yi's eyes were already beginning to roll back. Everyone swallowed their saliva. They were all shocked by Voidless Realm's means. Yihua wanted to give extra marks to Baiji. If it was a passing mark just now, then it would be 80 marks right now. Killing the chicken to warn the monkey is indeed not bad. You did not let me dote on you in vain. Seeing Qingye, who was at the side, Yihua let out a sigh of relief. Donghuang Baiji was the empress, and she had to do this. The situation forced her to do this, while Qingye didn't. This was the biggest difference between the two of them. If Qingye were to become the Empress of Voidless Realm, her way of thinking would be different. However, who knows? Perhaps, Qingye had a different style. Maybe, Qingye was compassionate and used words to move Shao Yi. Paw, 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 the beating continued, and no one dared to beg for mercy. Shao Yi was no longer feeling anything, and right now, he was lying on the bench like a dead person. Blood was flowing out from the corner of Shao Yi's mouth, and a pool of blood had formed on the ground. After 100 strikes, Shao Yi's butt was already lacerated, and it was a ghastly sight. Your Majesty, the execution is complete. The guard reported respectfully. Donghuang Baiji said, inform the family members to come and pick them up. Yes. Shu Nan and Yu Qi were both waiting in the side hall. The side hall was filled with the family members of the family masters. Of course, there were also some family masters who were not qualified. For example, Qingye's father, Qing Huaxian, was also present. He didn't come on his own, but was summoned by Yi Shao. The guard opened the door to the side hall, and all the family members were stunned. Is Shao Yi's family here? Come and get him. The guard shouted coldly. Shu Nan and Yu Qi had a bad feeling about this. What did he mean by, take people away? They hurried to follow him. When they saw their husband being carried out, Shu Nan and Yu Qi were shocked. Last night, Shao Yi went back and discussed with Shu Nan, but Shu Nan didn't expect the consequences to be so serious. If Shao Yi hadn't resisted just now, he would have only lost the ancient godly item and his family's title. He would still have his strength, but unfortunately, he had courted death. Nazuono bring. Shu Nan hurriedly checked her husband's pulse. Seeing that Shao Yi still had a trace of life left in him, Shu Nan stuffed a pill into Shao Yi's mouth, then carried her husband and left. In actuality, what Shao Yi felt the most fortunate about was that he had a wife like Shu Nan, who was willing to do anything for him. When the family members in the side hall saw that Shao Yi was beaten into a dog's leash, they immediately felt that the situation wasn't good. They hoped that their husband wouldn't cause any trouble. This act-tough King Shao Yi must have been acting tough inside, if not, how could he have ended up in such a miserable state? Chapter 373. The banquet hall was dead silent, and no one dared to even breathe loudly. Shao Yi was one of the best in the family, and in just an instant, a ferocious dragon turned into a snake, Xianyuan's sword was gone, and his cultivation was even crippled. This allowed everyone to witness the cold side of Voidless Realm, or rather, the iron-blooded side of the Empress. One must know that not long ago, the Empress was crowned with the title of heroine, and she disregarded everything to save the South from a crisis. This made everyone think that the Empress was a kind person, and she would definitely not kill people. However, everyone misunderstood the Empress's actions wrongly. Dong Wang Baiji was not a kind person, she was just carrying the prestige of voidless realm on her back. This was different from Qin Ye's benevolence. In actuality, Yihua already knew about Qin Ye's benevolence. In the past, Yihua already had this kind of inclination, but he didn't take it to heart. He just treated it as pity for a nobody. However, Qin Ye actually spoke up for Xiao Yi. This made Yihua angry, really angry. The kind that can't be coaxed. Right now, Tang Wushuang, Bai Cixin, and Wang Debao were trembling with fear. They were very surprised by Xiao Yi's punishment. Even an accomplice ended up like this, and the mastermind is still being dragged out to be beheaded. Yu Quan continued to pronounce the sentence. Remove the titles of Tang family and Bai family. If you use your identity to kill people in the future, you will definitely be severely punished. Thinking back to Xiao Yi's appearance just now, the three didn't dare to resist in the slightest. Thank you, Your Majesty, for your magnanimity, we will solemnly obey Your Majesty's orders. The three hurriedly kowtowed and thanked. This made everyone exclaim in admiration. Even after being punished to such an extent, they still have to kowtow and thank. Yihua felt that he had to add another 5 points to Baiji. Not bad, not bad, not bad, not bad, not bad. If only Qin Ye was half as outstanding as Baiji, I wouldn't have to worry so much. Dong Huang Baiji waved her hand and signaled the three to move to the side. Everyone sighed. The mastermind was still rational, but the accomplice was too arrogant, and he ended up being beaten up badly. However, no matter what, he was still the act tough king. If he were to lose face in such a situation, how could he be willing to continue living in the underworld? At the very least, he should have said a few words and let everyone see the act tough king's attitude. In the end, the Empress was not a kind person at all. Bai Cixin and Wang Debao retreated to the back of the crowd. Wang Debao held his wife's hand tightly and comforted her. Exhaustion could be seen on Bai Cixin's charming face. So many years of hard work, and in just a single sentence from Voidless Realm, all of her hard work had turned into bubbles. It had to be said that Wang Debao, this prodigal, was very lucky. At least when he was present, Xiao Yi's situation didn't happen. Wife, since there's no place for us in the north, let's go to the south. Wang Debao said in a low voice as he gently hugged his wife's waist. Bai Cixin turned around and looked at her husband. She seemed very puzzled. Wang Debao was very proud. This was the first time he saw his wife look at him like this. Honey, I've been your husband for so long. Naturally, I've learned a few tricks. Debao, thank you. Bai Cixin gently leaned into her husband's embrace. At a time like this, she could only rely on her husband. Wang Debao kissed his wife's forehead. Silly, we are husband and wife. When she heard her husband's affectionate words, Bai Cixin hugged him even tighter. Wang Debao felt that he would definitely unlock a few more difficult moves when he returned tonight. Hang upside down right now, Tang Wushuang was also thinking about going to the south to develop. After all, he couldn't stay in the north anymore. There was another person in the group who was secretly delighted, and that person was Qin Xuanzong. When he saw Xiao Yi being beaten half to death, he felt extremely refreshed in his heart, and he wished that Xiao Yi would be beaten to death. However, this wasn't enough to dispel his hatred. Back then, Xiao Yi killed his entire family, so I have to kill his entire family as well. Right now, Xiao Yi's Xianyuan sword was gone, and his cultivation was gone as well. Right now, he was just like a fish on the chopping board. Dong Huang Baiji let out a sigh of relief. This family's matter can be considered to be settled. Right now, it's time to settle the family's matter. Just as Dong Wang Baiji was about to ask, Yi Shao suddenly knelt down and said gravely, "Your Majesty, my son Yi Tai has already been missing for a long time. I reckon that he has already been poisoned. Right now, the suspect is Chu family's son, Chu Bai." Chu he didn't expect that Yi Shao would actually play such a dirty trick and shouted out, "Yi Shao. My son has already said it very clearly, he didn't kill him at all. Who knows if your son said anything or not? Perhaps he might have killed my son and sage doctor and taken that beauty for himself." Bullshit. Dong Huang Baiji was bewildered. Why did something like this happen again? Speak clearly. Chu he cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, let my son speak, he will be able to speak more clearly." Approved. Chinya, who was at the back, knew what happened. That day, I indeed didn't kill them, and now, they have gone missing again. Could it be that it's the jealous king again? The possibility of it being the jealous king is very high. That stingy fellow, he definitely hid behind me and got rid of me. Although Chinya didn't have any evidence, Chinya's intuition told her that it was definitely Yi Hua who did it. At the family area outside, the Imperial Guard appeared once again. This caused all of the women to be worried to death, and they were afraid that someone would be called to bring Chu Bai back. Chu family's Chu Bai. All of the family members were startled. I didn't expect that even the people from the aristocratic families would be called over. Something big must have definitely happened. Chu Bai kept his folding fan, took a deep breath, then followed the Imperial Guard into the banquet hall. After kneeling down in front of the Empress, Chu Bai recounted everything that had happened. Right now, we need to find those two women and have them testify against each other. Yi Shao said faintly. Chu he snorted coldly, "Where are you going to find them?" "Although I didn't manage to find those two women, I did manage to find their father." Yi Zhao's words were practically digging his own grave. Another no. Zuono a man with a woman. Dong Wang Baiji still didn't know about what happened that day, and thus, she approved of it. The Imperial Guard went to summon people again, and the people in the family area felt that something was wrong. Qing Huaxian. There were a lot of people who didn't recognize Qing Huaxian. After all, he wasn't someone from the circle. However, right now, Qing Huaxian was very excited. He was completely unaware of what was going to happen, and he was still excited. "That's me. The Empress summons me." Everyone was filled with envy. "The Empress summons me, how lucky is that?" Carrying along a nervous yet excited mood, Qing Huaxian followed behind the Imperial Guard. He is obviously a big boss, but right now, he is acting like a young man who has never seen the world. When he walked into the banquet hall, Qing Huaxian swallowed his saliva. This scene is too big. Those family heads that I normally wouldn't be able to see are all standing at the side and looking at me. And the family head that is standing at the very front, oh my God. My luck is really too good. And the woman on the rostrum, oh my God, she is so beautiful, she is so imposing. When Qingya heard that Yi Shao was going to call her father, her expression immediately became bad, and when she saw her father walking in, she didn't know what to say. Chapter 374. But because of what happened that day, he actually called his father over. It was really hateful. Qing Huaxian could be seen trembling with fear as he stood in the middle, curiously observing. Qingya hurriedly told Dong Huang Baiji about Qing Huaxuan's identity. After knowing that the man in front of her was Qingya's father, Dong Huang Baiji expressed that she understood. "Why aren't you paying your respects after seeing the Empress?" Yu Quan said indifferently. Although he spoke very calmly, there was still a wave of pressure that swept over, causing Qing Huaxian to feel even more pressure. "Forget it." Dong Huang Baiji said faintly. There was an uproar. They didn't know why the Empress would let it go. However, Qing Huaxian did not think like that. The person in front of him is the Empress, he definitely has to kneel down. He knelt with a thud. Greetings, Your Majesty. Dong Huang Baiji felt helpless. Qinya, your father is too radical. Qinya knew that her father wanted to curry favor with Dong Huang Baiji. Alright, get up and tell me what you know. Qing Huaxian told the story of how Sage Doctor came to their house that night, and then brought his 2 daughters out of the house. In the end, Chu Bai sent his 2 daughters home. Where are your 2 daughters now? Yi Xiao asked. Of course Qing Huaxian knew about it. In that leisure bar in Long'an City. However, he was interrupted by Dong Huang Baiji. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly, I understand, you can leave now. Yi Xiao said in a deep voice, but we haven't asked clearly yet. Qing Huaxian seemed to have felt that his daughter had gotten into trouble, and he hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed, Your Majesty, please spare my life. Although my daughter is naughty, she is not to the extent of getting into trouble. There must definitely be some misunderstanding. Looking at her father's sudden action, Qinya was filled with guilt. All these years, she didn't like her father marrying 2 women, and felt that it was unfair to her mother. However, seeing how her father was acting, Qinya felt that she had misunderstood her father. Although her father was a bit snobbish, deep down in his bones, he still cared about her and her sister. Alright, this Empress understands. You can leave first. Dong Huang Baiji said again. As for Qing Huaxian, he explained while retreating, saying that his daughter would not be a murderer, and even if she had killed someone, it would be because he, as a father, did not discipline his daughter well, and he was willing to take the blame for his daughter. As a father, Qing Huaxian received everyone's affirmation. When Dong Huang Baiji heard the news that Qinya sent over, she was a bit surprised. However, she still said, Yi Xiao. Since you want to find those 2 women so badly, this Empress will fulfill your wish. One of them is here. Yi Xiao was overjoyed. Thank you, Your Majesty. Everyone was waiting for the Empress to speak, but the female attendant behind her took a step forward. His appearance slowly changed, and when his true appearance was revealed, everyone present was dumbfounded. Chen Xuanzong felt as if he was struck by lightning. Qinya had actually become the Empress's maid. How is this possible, that Long Outyin is even more unworthy of Qinya? When these 2 women stood together, even the sun and moon would have to hide. The corner of Yi Zhao's mouth twitched a bit. This woman was actually the Empress's personal maid. Looking at the current situation, many people understood. No wonder those people were so respectful during the auction. So this woman had the support of the Empress behind her. On the day of the auction, Yu Quan wanted to sit beside this woman. It turned out that they already knew each other. When Bai Cixin saw Qinya, she seemed to have thought of the owner of the bar. This time, when I return to the south, I should pay a visit to the owner of the bar. Yi Zhao's face sunk. I brought the Empress's personal maid's father over to threaten you, seriously. However, this can't be counted as a threat, it was just a process of questioning, and I didn't use any torture. Fortunately, the Empress came over today, if not, if I were to use torture, I would really be finished. However, on the day of the auction, why did this female attendant appear at the scene? Could it be that she was sent over by the Empress to probe? Or could it be that she was sent over by the Empress to investigate something? Qinya's appearance made everyone believe Chu Bai's words. After all, she was the Empress's maid, and her strength was definitely not ordinary. It was normal for her to be able to defeat Yi Tai and Song Huang. And with the Empress vouching for her, the 2 people who disappeared definitely had other reasons. However, everyone didn't know that the murderer was in cahoots with them. Right now, it was the husband who killed the murderer, and they were the ones who washed their butts. The other family heads also knew that this matter wasn't simple. The Empress actually sent a female attendant to probe. What is the meaning of this? Yi Xiao, my people naturally wouldn't kill your son, you still need to investigate this matter. Donghuang Baiji said gravely. Yi Xiao didn't dare to speak too much. What the Empress said is extremely true, I was thinking too much. Chu Bai was also very surprised. I didn't expect that Qingya was actually the Empress's maid. After today, this Qing family is going to become popular. Qinghua Xian was indeed popular, and it was so popular that Qinghua Xian was baffled. Those family heads who couldn't meet Qinghua Xian one after another came to pay a visit to Qinghua Xian one after another. On the other hand, Tang family, Bai family, and Xiao family weren't as popular as they were back then. The world is so realistic, don't feel despair because of the current situation, perhaps tomorrow will be even more despairing. Seeing that Qingya stood out, Yi Hua gave her 2 points. Guan Tong knelt onto the ground with a plop. Empress, you have to uphold justice for me. My son was assassinated last night, and before the assassin died, he took a glance at them. He definitely didn't dare to say it out loud, but it was already very clear. Guan Tong, have you gone senile? You actually believe the words of this assassin. Duan Ho was wearing a veil today, in order to prevent her appearance from scaring the Empress. Jiang Yuanzhou said faintly, that's right, perhaps, it was someone else who tried to sow discord between us. It was definitely you, Jiang Yuanzhou. Guan Tong suddenly pointed at Jiang Yuanzhou and shouted out, looking at Jiang Yuanzhou as if saying, you are the assassin, I have already seen through you. Jiang Yuanzhou was also angered to the point that he glared at Guan Tong, are you sick? Alright, stop quarreling. Donghuang Baiji stopped the 2 family heads from quarreling. No matter what, they are the family heads of aristocratic families, and they have to pay attention to their image. Since the Empress had spoken, everyone had to quiet down. I also know a little about what happened last night. Guan Tong, although you are feeling the pain of losing your son, you cannot determine who the assassin is just because of a glance from the assassin, you have to investigate this matter carefully. Guan Tong immediately propped himself up and shouted out, Empress, it was definitely one of the 4 of them, you definitely have a way to make them confess to their crimes. Donghuang Baiji was clearly acting shamelessly, and this gave Donghuang Baiji a headache. The other party's son had already died, am I supposed to scold him? At this moment, Duan Ho suddenly said, Empress, I feel that this matter is not a small matter. Yi family's son went missing, and Guan family's son was murdered for no reason at all. Could it be that someone is plotting against the north? Even Duan Ho thought this way. Yi Hua's figure immediately appeared in Donghuang Baiji's and Qingya's mind. If something bad happened, it would definitely be related to Yi Hua. Yi Hua, who was within the crowd, decided to deduct 10 points from each of them. You don't even have any evidence, and yet you are still thinking about it, you are truly stupid. That's right, a lot of things have happened recently, and although they seem to be unrelated to each other, they seem to be related to each other. Everyone, you have to raise your vigilance. Donghuang Baiji was also unable to understand the current situation. Is it Yi Hua, or is it someone else? Should I go and ask Yi Hua? We are currently in the middle of a cold war, if anyone were to open their mouth, wouldn't that mean that they have lost? But Guan Tong still wanted to continue speaking, but he was stopped by Yu Quan. Empress is already tired. Later on, Empress will naturally send someone to investigate this matter, you all can just calmly wait for the result. Return. Before Yu Quan could finish his sentence about returning to Voidless Realm, someone interrupted him. To be precise, it wasn't a person, rather, the door was opened, and a man and a woman walked in. Chapter 375. Naturally, the ones who appeared at the door were Zhu Tian and Dongfang Yuan. Facing so many people, Dongfang Yuan was a little timid. However, the heat from Absolute Heaven's hand gave Dongfang Yuan a lot of courage. With Absolute Heaven here, she would feel more at ease. This wasn't the first time that Yihua saw Dongfang Yuan. That day during the auction, Yihua had also taken a glance at Dongfang Yuan, but he didn't take a good look at her. Looking at her today, Zhu Tian's eyesight was pretty good. That delicate appearance of hers made people want to protect her. That didn't seem right. Compared to protecting her, bullying her was the correct way to unlock her. Absolute heaven was blessed. This was his blessing as the boss. This girl was not bad. But to others, these two people had barged into the meeting without permission, and they should be punished. Who are you? Do you know what this place is? Hey, isn't this a woman from the Bai clan? Why did you change your man? Her man is dead, how can she not change? Yu Quan looked at the two people at the door and shouted, Her Majesty the Empress allows you to explain. Zhu Tian held Dongfang Yuan's hand and walked forward with absolute confidence. Looking at the two madams, Zhu Tian knelt on one knee, and Dongfang Yuan, who was beside him, also knelt and lowered her head. Respected Empress, I came here with no ill intentions. Knowing that his honor was present, Zhu Tian naturally wouldn't be disrespectful towards his honor's madams. Even if his honor wasn't present, Zhu Tian still had to show respect to the madams. This was something that a subordinate should do. Everyone thought that this man was here to cause trouble. They thought that they could watch a good show before they left, but it turned out that he was just a coward. Donghuang Baiji said faintly, This Empress allows you to state your purpose for coming here. Thank you, Your Majesty. Zhu Tian stood up, looked at Dongfang Yuan and said, This girl is my woman, her matters are my matters, her grievances are my anger, her grievances will be washed by me. Her surname is Dongfang. Today we are here to participate in the aristocratic family election. Saying so, a dagger appeared in Absolute Heaven's hand, floating in the air. The whole place was in chaos. Tang Wushuang cried out in surprise, My ancient godly item. Zhu Tian said faintly, This is Dongfang family's ancient godly item. Everyone's brains weren't enough to process it, and there were even whispers of discussion. As for the 5 great clans, the patriarch's expressions were gloomy, because they could feel that the newcomers did not come with good intentions. They were here for the 5 great clans. Yu Quan took over the tomb, then bowed and passed it to Donghuang Baiji. Donghuang Baiji looked at the ancient godly item that was in her hand, and her brain was about to explode. Why did something happen again? Can't you just let me have some peace? Qingya wrinkled her brows. Why do I feel that this man looks a bit familiar? Tang Wushuang walked out from the crowd, then hurriedly kowtowed and shouted, Your Majesty, this is the ancient godly item that I lost. Donghuang Baiji took a deep breath, This ancient godly item, where did you get it from? You guys might not believe me, but I picked it up, Absolute Heaven said calmly. Looking at those sincere eyes of his, it didn't seem like he was lying. Tang Wushuang was the first one who couldn't take it anymore. He pointed at Tang Wushuang and shouted, You are the one who picked me up. I'm sorry. I don't have the spirit of not pocketing money that I picked up, Absolute Heaven said indifferently. Tang Wushuang wasn't convinced, and she questioned with her delicate voice, You're acting shamelessly. Everyone knows that it isn't easy to obtain an ancient godly item, but in the end, it can't be that I have to return it to you after I snatch it from you. There doesn't seem to be such a rule, right? Besides, I didn't even snatch it from you, I only picked it up, that's all. Absolute Heaven's argument was indeed correct. Ancient godly items indeed had to be snatched by others, and whoever had the ability to obtain them would be able to obtain them. Tang Wushuang was very unconvinced, and he hurriedly cupped his hands towards Donghuang Baiji and said, Your Majesty, please investigate this matter clearly, this ancient godly item was something that you wanted to keep. Tang Wushuang remained silent and waited for Donghuang Baiji's reply. His honor was waiting for the madams to make a fool of themselves, and if that didn't happen, his honor would be very disappointed. In actuality, Donghuang Baiji was discussing with Qinya whether to keep the ancient godly item or to let it go. Qinya, what do you think? I don't know how to judge as well, I don't really understand the rules of your voidless realm. Donghuang Baiji was very vexed. This ancient godly item was supposed to be confiscated, but Tang Wushuang lost it, and today, someone brought it over to participate in the election. Everyone looked towards Donghuang Baiji, waiting for the Empress's final decision. Yi Hua was also watching excitedly. This is the finale of the show. Who asked you all to be mischievous? After a short while, Donghuang Baiji had an answer in her heart, and she said faintly, "This is the ancient godly item that I wanted to confiscate. Since you all brought it over to participate in the election, it naturally doesn't count. However, I still have to thank you all for bringing it over to the ancient godly item. I will naturally not treat you all unfairly." Donghuang Baiji's way of doing things seemed to be very clear. Since I accepted the ancient godly item, I will be giving you face. Zhu Tian was very satisfied with his wife's answer. After all, if I don't accept his wife's answer, I won't be able to complete the mission that his honor gave me. Tang Wushuang didn't know why, but he let out a sigh of relief. Yi Hua, who was within the crowd, was very excited. Let me let you all be arrogant, let me let you all be arrogant. Obediently refuse to be my wife, and yet, you all insist on coming out to act cool. Watch how I will slap your faces. Just when everyone thought that Zhu Tian would compromise, Zhu Tian said something that caused everyone to exclaim in admiration. Is this how Voidless Realm bullies the weak? Immediately, the crowd went into an uproar. This is simply the second Shao Yi, and later on, this Voidless Realm will definitely die. What a lesson from the past. How dare you? Yuan roared, and the pressure from his body automatically spread out. How could some of the weaker patriarchs withstand it? Step down. Donghuang Baiji said faintly. Yuan fiercely glared at absolute heaven, his words carrying a serious warning. Donghuang Baiji said faintly, my voidless realm has always been reasonable. How shameless. He had just crippled someone, and now he was trying to reason with them. Zhu Tian nodded and said, Lady Empress is naturally a reasonable person, I believe in you. This high hat is being put on, Lady Empress, may I ask who was the previous owner of this primordial godly item? Zhu Tian asked. Donghuang Baiji naturally knew about it, and she said gravely, the Dongfang family from 100 years ago. After the Dongfang family's tragedy, how should we deal with this ancient godly item? Zhu Tian continued to ask. As expected of absolute heaven's brain. With just a few words, he was able to turn a matter that had happened in the past into a tragedy. This caused those who heard him to feel puzzled. Just what kind of tragedy had happened 100 years ago? What's wrong with the Dongfang family? Everyone has their own curiosity, especially when it comes to the gossip of those in power. Donghuang Baiji wouldn't fall for absolute heaven's trick. Back then, Dongfang family was guilty of secretly possessing an ancient godly item, and the evidence was conclusive. Thus, the ancient godly item was naturally taken back by Voidless Realm, just that, this dagger had disappeared. Zhu Tian silently nodded his head, slowly luring Donghuang Baiji's wife to fall for his trick. In that case, this dagger is the evidence, and it is the ancient godly item that Voidless Realm is going to take back. Zhu Tian asked. Donghuang Baiji felt that something was wrong, but she still said, that's right. Then, may I ask Honorable Lady Empress, why is this kind of evidence able to enter the aristocratic family's election when it fell into Tang Wushuang's hands, but not when it fell into Dongfang family's descendants' hands? Both of them are going to take back the ancient godly item, so why is the result different? Zhu Tian had prepared for so long just to say this sentence. However, when Zhu Tian said this sentence, the entire place became deathly silent. This is a direct slap to the face. Dong Huang Baiji's face immediately darkened, and Qingya's expression also changed. Meanwhile, when Yihua saw his wife's expressions, he felt great in his heart. Am I still formidable? Am I still formidable? Chapter 376. The atmosphere in the banquet was very oppressive because the Empress's slender figure was exuding a spiritual pressure, causing everyone to be unable to breathe. Zhu Tian didn't have any intention of stopping as he continued speaking. Respected Your Majesty, could it be that voidless realm is intentionally suppressing Dongfang family? Or was it the Dongfang family's meritorious service? Are you trying to frame me? Ordinary families wouldn't even know about this kind of secret text, and only Voidless Realm and the 5 great families knew about this matter. So, how did this man know about it? Dong Huang Baiji immediately thought of Yihua, because she had already told Yihua about this matter. However, he looked at the girl beside him. She was also a member of the Dongfang family. Back then, she had only killed all the men. She had not killed the women or the girls. This was also the reason why Zhu Tian had to subdue Dongfang Yue. He wanted to make Dongfang Yue's wife seem to conform to common sense. Dong Huang Baiji thought to herself. I don't even know about the case back then, and I haven't even been born yet. After that, I only heard a little about it, but I didn't try to find out more about it. Could it be that there's really a grievance in this case? But regardless of whether he was wronged or not, he had lost all his face today. Bastard! Hubby, come quickly. Your wife is being bullied. If Yihua were to know what Dong Huang Baiji was thinking right now, he would definitely feel extremely happy. Now that you know how to look for my husband for help, the Supreme Overlord, I'm not going to help you, and I am going to let you know just how big of a mistake it is to leave me. Zhu Tian gently caressed Dongfang Yu's cheeks and faintly said, My Yu had to endure a lot of pressure. Because she was weak, she was sold into the Bai family, and lived in the abyss of suffering. Now, she has finally escaped from the abyss of suffering, but she still bears the grievances of the entire Dongfang family. Respected Empress, are you going to let the murderer go free? This was absolute heaven's solo performance. Every word he said caused others to blush with shame. In addition to Dongfang Yu's weak expression, everyone seemed to believe that she had been wronged. Dong Huang Baiji said coldly, I will naturally investigate this matter thoroughly. Lady Empress is extremely intelligent. I believe that not long from now, you will be able to clear Dongfang family's name. Zhu Tian's words caused Dong Huang Baiji to be very angry, but at the same time, there was nothing she could do. Chu He suddenly shouted, What do you mean innocent or not? Don't try to confuse the Empress here. Your Majesty, this man's background is unknown. Duan Ho said. Zhu Tian said indifferently, Respected Empress, I am also the son-in-law of the Guan family. Guan Tong was speechless. Yu Quan said gravely, to participate in the election of an aristocratic family, one has to go through an evaluation of strength and assets. Zhu Tian pushed Dongfang Yu to the front of him and said, Your Majesty, she is just an ordinary person, and she has an ordinary bank card with her. In the bank card, there are a few thousand kuai that she earned from working. This is all of the assets that she has. Furthermore, she doesn't have any other competitors. Everyone's heart trembled. What this man said is true. Tang family and Bai family have been abolished, and Shao Yi is the same as well. All of the competitors are gone, so who else is there left to participate in the election? Good. You are very good. Dong Huang Baiji was really angered by Zhu Tian. Although there isn't any evidence, Dong Huang Baiji feels that Zhu Tian is definitely one of Yihua's people. Yu Yihua. No matter if he is one of your people or not, you still have to take the blame. Zhu Tian is completely unreasonable. However, a woman's characteristic is that they are unreasonable. This is where Yihua miscalculated. Thank you, Your Majesty, for your praise. I don't deserve it. Dong Huang Baiji signaled Yu Quan to announce it. Yu Quan was also very puzzled, but he had no choice but to announce it. Dong Fang Yu listen up. Yu Quan shouted. Zhu Tian said in a low voice, go. Zhu Tian, thank you. Dong Fang Yuan was very moved. This was a man who truly cared about her. Zhu Tian said in a low voice, no need to thank me. I will definitely bully you when we get back tonight. Dong Fang Yuan's face turned red as she hurriedly walked forward. Yu Quan shouted, from today onwards, the Dongfang family will become the sixth family. Patriarch Dongfang Yuer. Enjoy all the privileges of the aristocratic families. One sentence was heaven, and one sentence was earth. He had performed very well today. Dongfang Yuan stretched out her hands, and the ancient divine weapon-piercing tomb slowly floated into her hands. As for Dong Huang Baiji, she didn't want to stay here any longer, and she said coldly, return. Qinya took a look at this junior sister. This is also good, in the future, no one will bully her anymore. He was completely unaware that Dongfang Yuan was being bullied by absolute heaven every single day. And when Dongfang Yuan saw her senior sister, she wanted to say a few words to her, but she didn't dare to and just watched them leave. Dongfang Yuan became the sixth family in the north. Although she didn't have much strength, she still had all the rights that an aristocratic family should have. Many family heads came over to fawn on her, and Zhu Tian acted as her guardian. After all, Dongfang Yuan was pure and kind, and it was very easy for her to be deceived by others. For example, she was deceived by me. What a silly girl. After watching a good show today, Yihua felt very comfortable. Thus, he returned home. Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji didn't take any transportation back, because they weren't in the mood to do so. After returning back to Voidless Realm's bedroom, Dong Huang Baiji began smashing things in her room, while Qinya helplessly looked at her from the side. Bastard, shameless bastard, I have lost all of my face today. Dong Huang Baiji lost her temper, and all of the first-rate spirit tools were turned into dregs. Chapter 377. Qinya, if today's trap was set up by Yihua, we would have lost by a notch. Qinya laughed lightly, if my guess isn't wrong, this is a trap set up by Yihua. However, this time around, he is very smart, and we don't have any evidence to prove it. Bastard. Yihua, this damned Yihua actually tricked his wife. Dong Huang Baiji was about to go crazy from anger. This is the first time I've heard of a husband setting up a trap for his wife. Alright, we have to think of a way to turn the tables. Qinya wouldn't admit defeat so easily. Although the two wives had no evidence, a woman's sixth sense told them that it was their husband who was messing around behind the scenes. Everything happened when they ran away from home. How could it be so coincidental? Anyway, it was just one sentence. I don't care, it's Yihua. Dong Huang Baiji gradually calmed down, and in her heart, the flames of victory were ignited. I will definitely not let Yihua look down on me. Firstly, we need to ascertain the reason why Yihua did all those things. Qinya said faintly while sitting on a jade chair at the side. The maids were carrying the freshest tea and fruits over to Qinya. Dong Huang Baiji snorted, isn't it because you want us to return? This is only one of the reasons. What he did today was to make us lose face and strike at our confidence so that we would lower our heads and ask him for help. Qinya's guess was really direct and very accurate. Dong Huang Baiji remembered that this was what she was thinking back then. What a shame, I nearly fell for my husband's tricks. Then, what is he planning to do next? Dong Huang Baiji let out a breath. After taking a sip of the tea, she felt much more comfortable. Qinya said gravely, if my guess is correct, Yihua wants to overthrow the other 5 great families. Ah, isn't he just messing around? Dong Huang Baiji immediately stood up in excitement. After all, this person could be counted as her subordinate. Qingye shook her head. From what happened with Dongfang family, it can be seen that Yi Hua is trying to help Dongfang family clear their grievances. Furthermore, Yi Hua must have definitely found some sort of clue. Today, the expressions of the 5 family heads who were present at the scene also seemed to be a bit strange. Dong Huang Baiji asked confusedly, Qingye, are you saying that all 5 aristocratic families are participating in this? Yi Hua wants to use this matter to get rid of the 5 aristocratic families. Qingye nodded her head. But why did he do that? Dong Huang Baiji was confused. Isn't he just making things difficult for you and me? That day, both of us were speaking up for the outsiders, and right now, he is trying his best to mess with those people, and wants us to go and help them. Qingye laughed bitterly. Only a child would do such a thing. Yi Hua is a child that hasn't grown up yet. If we help them and fail, Yi Hua will be able to see us as a joke. Qingye nodded her head. Bastard. I'll strangle him to death right now. Alright, Yi Hua didn't do anything much either. He is just helping a weak lady, we mustn't panic. Qingye said with a warm smile. In actuality, Yi Hua's original intention for this entire matter was still good, which was to help others clear their grievances. Yi Hua didn't know that his lovely wife could be evaluated in such a way. I, the Supreme Overlord, am only making use of you. You are thinking too much. Then how can we turn defeat into victory and stop it? On the contrary, we have to investigate the truth of this matter before Yi Hua. We cannot let Yi Hua's people wash away this injustice. No matter what, Qingye was still a CEO, and she had played in business wars before, thus she knew a bit about this matter. Right now, what they had to do was to settle this matter before Yi Hua. If that were to happen, Yi Hua's plan would be ruined. That was indeed the case. If Yi Hua didn't get the initiative this time, then Voidless Realm couldn't be said to be incompetent. On the other hand, if Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji were to find the evidence first, then Voidless Realm would be seen as an impartial big shot, and they would be respected by more people. Right now, they were competing to see who was faster. In actuality, the most unjust thing was that Zhu Tian had already dealt with the details very well, and there was no evidence at all. But even so, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji still firmly believed that Yi Hua was the one behind all of this. I'm not going to talk to you about the evidence, in any case, it is you. Dong Huang Baiji thought for a moment, then shouted out, Men! Bring out the dossier of Dongfang family that year. Yes. If Dongfang family is really framed, I will not let it go. Dong Huang Baiji's beautiful eyes revealed out a bit of firmness. After all, this matter was judged by my Lord Father, and if it is wrong, I will definitely correct it. Qingye nodded her head, then said with a light smile, and, this is not only a competition with Yi Hua, this is also a competition to uphold justice in the world. Dong Huang Baiji agreed with what Qingye said. Yi Hua felt that this was bullshit justice. Without me being evil, how can there be justice in the world? Right now, within the bar, Yi Hua was currently opening a bottle of champagne at the bar counter and drinking with his sister-in-law. Brother-in-law, why are you so happy today? My big sister is coming back. Qing Yutong took a sip of champagne and asked curiously. Yi Hua sneered, I will be happy for them. Don't joke around. TSK, you still don't want to admit it? In actuality, you can't wait for Big Sister and Baiji to come back, right? What does a brat know? I am going to make your big sister beg me to come back, watch carefully. Qing Yutong spread out her hands and said helplessly, I'm just afraid that in the end, brother-in-law, even if I am going to jump off a cliff, I will not go and beg them. All right. Brother-in-law, you are awesome, sister-in-law shall give you a toast. Ding. Yihua drank the champagne in a single gulp. Your Honor. Zhu Tian suddenly walked out from the darkness, giving Qin Yutong a fright. I didn't even notice that Zhu Tian had arrived. Miss Qing. Zhu Tian said with a light smile towards Qin Yutong. Yihua trusted his sister-in-law a lot. There were a lot of things that Qin Yi didn't know about, but Qin Yutong knew about everything. From this, it could be seen that Qin Yutong was very favored by Yihua. This is Zhu Tian, another subordinate of mine. Yihua said faintly. Qin Yutong sized up Zhu Tian and felt that his light smile was so fake, it looked even uglier than crying. Zhu Tian, don't smile so politely, it looks really ugly. Yihua couldn't bear to watch on anymore. When Zhu Tian smiles, his skin moves, but his flesh doesn't move. Recently, Zhu Tian had been learning how to smile. Smiling is a type of courtesy, but I really can't bring myself to smile. Of course. Seeing that His Honor is happy, I am able to smile. This is the glory of being a subordinate, this feels great. Your Honor, the madams should be suspicious of me. Zhu Tian said respectfully. After causing such a ruckus today, the madams will definitely be suspicious of me. Yihua swirled the champagne in his hand and said indifferently, with their unreasonable personalities, even if they don't have any evidence, they have already pinned the blame on me. Furthermore, they have already thought of a way to deal with me. Your Honor's wisdom surpasses that of Zhuge Liang. Subordinate is inferior to even one of Your Honor's fingers. I hope that Your Honor can bestow upon subordinate the highest wisdom and allow subordinate to do things for Your Honor with all my heart. Qin Yutong felt very cold, and goosebumps appeared all over her body. Chapter 378. Yihua said faintly, I will give you a piece of information. Thank you, Your Honor. Qin Yutong couldn't take it anymore. Your conversation is so shameless. If they want to win against me right now, there is only one way. And that is to obtain the evidence of the 5 aristocratic families' crimes before us. If they were to announce it, all of our efforts would be wasted. Zhu Tian could be seen kneeling down, Your Honor is a god. Qin Yutong, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. I am going to go upstairs. If I continue listening to this, I will die from numbness. Zhu Tian, they have an advantage. Baiji is able to investigate what happened back then, but you don't have such an advantage. Have you thought clearly about what you are going to do? Do you need me to remind you? Zhu Tian was terrified, then said hurriedly, Your Honor has already provided so much information, subordinate doesn't dare to let Your Honor use his brain anymore. That would make subordinate seem very useless. Yihua let out a breath. You are quite sensible, I didn't think of any other methods. The relationship between a superior and a subordinate was very complicated. As a subordinate, he had to understand the boss's personality, and when it was time to flatter the boss, he had to flatter the boss. Of course, Zhu Tian wasn't flattering the boss, he was praising the boss sincerely. After all, the previous His Honor was a simple-minded skeleton. If he didn't need to use his brain, he definitely wouldn't use it. Go, try to solve the case as soon as possible. After that, I will use my ultimate technique to instantly kill them. Yihua laughed lightly. Those who went against me are all howling in pain in hell. Only the 2 of you can make me love and hate you. Yes. Subordinate will take my leave now. Yihua took out a cigarette and slowly lit it up. Right now, the atmosphere in Shao residence was very heavy. Basin after basin of blood was carried out from the room, causing everyone to feel even more depressed. Shao Yi was still not awake and was lying on the bed. Although Xu Nan's medical skills weren't as abnormal as Song Huang's, she was still an expert. Right now, the medicine has already been applied on Shao Yi's body, just that, his buttocks were all smashed up. It will take a long time for Shao Yi to fully recover. Xu Nan let out a deep sigh. My husband is still so impulsive. If only those people were here, they would at least be able to treat my husband's injuries. It's a pity that my husband cut off that path, if not, he wouldn't have ended up like this. After wiping off the bloodstains on her hands, Shunan walked out of the room. Yu Qi and the other women hurriedly asked, "Brother Shao, what happened?" "I spared his life," Shunan said helplessly. This was good news for Yu Qi and the others. As long as the man didn't die, it was fine. She could live in peace in the future. The women's thoughts were very simple. It was just that Shao Yi didn't want to live a peaceful life. He wanted to stand above everyone. "Shunan, there's a man who claims to be Cindy's relative waiting in the side hall," Yu Qi said. Shunan frowned and said in a deep voice, "I'll go take a look. You guys look after Brother Shao." "Yes." Arriving at the side hall, Shunan saw a man dressed in calm clothes sitting and drinking tea. From his appearance, he didn't look like a bad person, but who knew? "Hello, I'm Shunan." When the man saw Shunan walking over, he stood up and smiled. "Hello, my name is Wu Lu." Shunan smiled and shook hands with her before sitting down. "You're Cindy's." "My cousin from afar has recently come to Zijin City to take care of some matters, so I came over to take a look." Wu Lu maintained a faint smile from beginning to end, but for some reason, this smile made Shunan's whole body numb. Especially that pair of squinting eyes, it gave people an illusion of a very kind person. So it's Cindy's cousin from afar. Cindy has recently gone abroad. Hearing Shunan's words, Wu Lu paused for a moment. Shunan didn't notice this subtle action, but Wu Lu knew that something had happened. Because Nangong Cindy's location was still here. Wu Lu asked curiously, "I saw that the servants of the Shao residence are very busy today. Did something happen?" "You're overthinking. They're just preparing for the family banquet." "I see. Then I'll have to bother you." Wu Lu stood up and said faintly. He still didn't know what happened today. "I'll send you off." Shunan was also very polite. Wu Lu smiled and nodded. The two of them walked towards the door. However, just when they reached the door, they heard the guards outside shouting angrily. "Who are you?" "The person who killed you." "Aw, aw, aw." After a few muffled sounds of someone falling to the ground, the door became quiet again. Shunan's expression instantly changed. Her husband had just fallen, and someone came to seek revenge so quickly. Wu Lu turned around and looked at Shunan. It seemed that something had really happened. The two huge mahogany doors were instantly lifted and flew towards the two of them. Wu Lu slowly waved his arm, and the two wooden doors flew towards the two of them as if they were cut by a huge blade. The one standing at the door was Qin Xuanzong. Today, he was here to exterminate the Shao family. Looking at this person who had recently reincarnated, Wu Lu's expression didn't change. Qin Xuanzong looked at the smiling man in front of him and frowned. His intuition told him that this person was very dangerous. "Today, I'm here to take revenge." Qin Xuanzong stated his intention. Wu Lu lightly smiled and said, "Sorry, the Shao family is on a holiday today. I'll come another day." Qin Xuanzong's eyes focused, and a terrifying spiritual energy erupted. He turned his hand into a palm and attacked with a violent aura. Wu Lu didn't have any intention of retreating. Chapter 379. Can you take me to see Shao Yi now? Wu Lu faintly smiled. His narrowed eyes made people feel uncomfortable. Shunan nodded. She didn't expect Cindy's cousin to be so powerful. Wu Lu came to the bedroom, and when he saw Shao Yi being beaten up to such a state, he was a bit shocked as well. After knowing what happened, Wu Lu exclaimed in admiration. Xiao Yi was actually stripped of his title by Voidless Realm, Xian Yuan's sword was taken away by Voidless Realm, and his strength was crippled. To this immortal emperor, he might as well just kill Xiao Yi. After asking again and again, Wu Lu found out that Nangong Sini was already dead, and the one who killed her was the black-cloaked skeleton. It was said that it was related to that bar, but it still needed to be investigated. It seemed that the boss's promotion to S rank was correct. Death mages were summoned, not transmigrated or reborn. Therefore, the space-time branch did not have any levels. Suddenly, Wu Lu thought of a good idea. Recently, the company was short of manpower. Although this immortal emperor had lost his ancient godly item and power, his foundation was still there. There seemed to be a lot of decent primordial spirits in the warehouse. Although they were slightly weak, they could at least help him recover some of his strength, making it convenient for him to help the company. These decent primordial spirits belonged to those unlucky reincarnators. They were captured when they were at their weakest, and their primordial spirits were extracted before being sent back. Although this primordial spirit was relatively weak, it still had potential. After all, those who could cultivate a primordial spirit were all very powerful. It was just that when he came over, he was too weak. Shu Nan, if you trust me, hand your husband over to me. I can cure him and restore his strength. Wu Lu's words made Shu Nan very shocked, but from this person's performance just now, he was still very strong. Can I come with you? Shu Nan asked. Wu Lu shook his head. Shu Nan looked at her pale husband. When he woke up, he would definitely be in so much pain that he would want to die. Rather than seeing her husband in pain, it was better to take a gamble. If her husband was still awake, he would definitely make the same choice. Alright, I hope you're not lying to me. Otherwise, I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. Wu Lu chuckled, you women all like to say that. Shu Nan immediately became worried. This person looked calm, but his words didn't seem to be reliable. But while Shu Nan was deep in thought, Wu Lu and Xiao Yi on the bed disappeared. After an unknown amount of time, Xiao Yi slowly opened his eyes. Scenes appeared in his mind. The Xianyuan sword was gone, his strength was gone. What was the point of living? Do you want to die? Xiao Yi was startled and looked around. It was pitch black. Who's talking? Bang, bang, bang. The white lights were switched on one after another. It was very dazzling. Xiao Yi frowned and closed his eyes. Xiao Yi. Before he was reborn, he was a celestial emperor. Although he was a relatively weak celestial emperor, at least he still had a reputation. After he arrived on Earth, he reformed the Xiao family and obtained the Xianyuan sword. People called him the act-tough King Xiao. But unfortunately, all his glory was taken away within a day. Xiao Yi's expression changed drastically. The immortal emperor was his greatest secret, not even his wives knew about it. How did he know? Wu Lu smiled and said, I know you're confused. In fact, our company specializes in catching transmigrators like you. We knew about it on the first day you came, so we arranged for Nangong Sini to be by your side. Unfortunately, she's dead. What? Sini is one of your people. Xiao Yi involuntarily shouted. He never thought that he would be arranged. Yes, but don't be disappointed. Her feelings for you are real. Every time she reports, she only picks on the light ones. You've instigated our people to defect. After a long time, Xiao Yi seemed to accept this situation. What do you want to do? Recently, the company is short of manpower. If we can have a celestial emperor like you to support us, the work efficiency should be good. As a manager, Wu Lu basically didn't go out on duty. He only gave orders. Why? Because I can let you continue to have strength. Hearing this, Xiao Yi was tempted. As Wu Lu snapped his fingers, the wall gradually moved, revealing the items inside. Xiao Yi couldn't believe it. The rows of bottles actually contained primordial spirits. What kind of organization was this? I can make an exception and arrange a weaker primordial spirit for you. If you perform well, you can naturally obtain a stronger primordial spirit. In fact, there are a few very powerful celestial emperor primordial spirits here. Unfortunately, their luck wasn't as good as yours. When they came over, they were too weak and their heads were blown off by the people below. Listening to Wu Lu's explanation, Xiao Yi was shocked. He also saw a glimmer of hope. After this experience, he also knew the importance of hugging someone's thigh. The opportunity was in front of him again. He couldn't miss it. Good. I promise you. Wu Lu was very happy. This is a living celestial emperor, and furthermore, this celestial emperor is working for me. What bullshit arrogance, this Xiao Yi is tactful. Otherwise, there would be another bottle here. In actuality, Xiao Yi also thought of this point. Such an important matter has been found out by me. If I don't promise you, I might very well die. In the future, we will be colleagues. I am very happy that you have joined Spacetime Branch. Spacetime Branch, Xiao Yi felt that it should be very powerful, right? 1 month passed by in the blink of an eye. Yi Hua was very angry. These two women are actually still stubbornly resisting. Do they really want me to use my trump card? Zhu Tian's investigation didn't have any progress at all, unless he used extreme methods, such as capturing all of them and forcing them to confess. This was the simplest and fastest method. However, this wasn't what Yi Hua wanted. This wasn't shocking at all. He wanted to find evidence that would make them speechless. It would be best if he could find evidence that would slap them in the face on the spot. Zhu Tian didn't find any evidence, and Donghuang Baiji didn't find any evidence as well. It had already been more than 100 years, and the evidence was basically all gone. Yi Hua and Donghuang Baiji were in a deadlock just like that. Neither of them was willing to take a step back. Sometimes, when a husband and wife quarreled, the one who took a step back would be the one who would be at peace. Although there wasn't any progress in the investigation, the relationship between the 5 aristocratic families was very tense. In just 1 month, the younger generation of the aristocratic families had gotten into a fight. Although there weren't any casualties, there were still some who had their arms and legs broken. When this news reached Voidless Realm's ears, Donghuang Baiji became very annoyed. Thus, Donghuang Baiji ordered the 5 aristocratic families to not get into a fight. As the newly appointed Dongfang family, Dongfang Yuan was very low-key. After all, Dongfang Yuan didn't have a luxurious base, and she also didn't have any connections. Bai Zixin left Zijin City and followed her husband to Wang family's territory, which was located in Gaohai City. In the south, Wang family could be considered to have a place of their own. However, after the robbery of the ancient godly item last time, Wang Debao's credibility had been completely used up. The southerners looked down on Wang Debao, and the 2 banquets that Wang Debao held, there weren't any big figures that came, and the only people that came were some small merchants. Tang Wushuang's family also came to the south. His master's disappearance was a huge blow to Tang Wushuang, and after Tang Wushuang came to the south, he didn't cause any trouble for Tang family. Instead, he lived his life carefully and didn't cause any trouble for others. After all, Tang Wushuang's strength was clear for all to see. Xiao Yi also left the north, and his family moved to Gaohai City. And right now, Xiao Yi had another identity. He was a field agent of the Spacetime Branch, and he was on standby 24 hours a day. In 1 month, he took on 2 missions, and both of them were transmigrators. Xiao Yi was able to easily capture the transmigrators and obtain the praise of the Spacetime Branch. This made Xiao Yi feel very happy, and he felt that his life was pretty much the same as before. Chapter 380. The Spacetime Directorate and the Gods were two different systems. The former was equivalent to a technological civilization, managing the problem of smuggling between different planes. On the other hand, the gods were in charge of the safety of the designated planes. The two were of different natures, so there was no conflict between them. This was also the reason why the spacetime branch didn't intervene in the matters between the giants. Of course, sometimes they would intervene, just like how Wu Lu used Die Hard, but the failure of Die Hard made Wu Lu give up. The gods controlled the safety of the planes, and there were also ranks among the gods. After all, where there were people, there would be Jianghu, not to mention the high and mighty god world. A powerful god often controlled several planes. Just how big was the entire universe? Just like the world that Yihua came from in the past and the current world, there were two different deities. Compared to the deities in the current world, the deities in the other world were more powerful. After all, the deities in the other world were more powerful. Meanwhile, Yihua had asked Zi Shan about it, and she found out that the number of overlords in this world seemed to be pitifully few. From this, it could be seen just how low the combat prowess of the overlords was. Thus, Yihua completely lost interest in the overlords. Gods lived in a large world with boundless spiritual qi. There were no ordinary people here, only gods. God was just a title, just like human. It was just that the gods had an innate coldness towards the lower worlds. To put it bluntly, they looked down on them. In the beginning, Zi Shan was also the same. She did not care about the life and death of Ji family. As for Zi Shan, she could be considered to be a well-known figure among the deities. If not, she wouldn't have been chosen by the king and become a member of the harem. The heavenly palace was the capital city of the gods' world. Naturally, the imperial palace was indispensable, and the person who lived there was naturally the highest ruler of the entire heavenly palace. But today, it wasn't the imperial palace that was bustling, but one of the prince's mansions. Marquis Palace. People came and went at the entrance of the Ho Wangfu. Everyone held gifts in their hands and entered the Ho Wangfu with a heart full of respect. Today was Ho Xuelin's birthday, and those who came were all descendants of the royal family. Even some members of the royal family had to address him as Lord Ho. One could see Ho Xuelin's status in heaven's sanctum. I heard that Prince Ho married the beautiful and talented Miss Zi Shan some time ago. It seems like I'm lucky to meet her today. That's right, I heard that this Miss Zi Shan is proficient in the four arts, and she is also very strong. Marquis Wang Ye is truly blessed. Everyone seemed to be talking about Miss Zi Shan, and in the backyard of the Ho mansion, there were two middle-aged men and a young man. One of them was the Ho master, Ho Xuelin. He was dressed in luxurious clothes with golden threads, and there was an ancient godly item on his belt. The ring on his thumb was also an ancient godly item. It seemed as though the ancient godly items were just decorations to him. Even though Ho Xuelin looked like a middle-aged man, he had actually lived for tens of thousands of years. It was just that his appearance was fixed at middle-aged age. Of course, he could also look like a teenager, but a middle-aged man looked more mature and reserved. Coupled with his handsome face, he was indeed very attractive to the opposite sex. The two men beside him were Che Hongliang and Wu Ma-en. Che Hongliang was the younger brother-in-law of the current emperor, and his sister was the empress. Wu Ma-en was the crown prince's playmate, and his father was a valiant general. The three of them could be said to be the most influential people in heaven's sanctum, excluding the royal family. Che Hongliang's body was slightly plump, and his eyes were filled with craftiness. He was a wily old fox. On the other hand, Wu Ma-en had the appearance of a youngster, and he was as beautiful as jade. He had a graceful bearing, and he was lightly waving the folding fan in his hand. He had the appearance of a playboy. After all, He had to accompany the crown prince to have fun, and he had to be to the crown prince's liking. "Prince Ho, why don't I see Madame Ziyuan today?" Wuman asked with a smile while waving the folding fan in his hand. Ho Shuolin pinched onto his thumb and index finger and said faintly, "She was punished by me to face the wall and reflect on her misdeeds." Che Hongliang, who was at the side, blew away the steam on his teacup, then lightly took a sip of the tea while wrinkling his brows. Soon after, Che Hongliang said, "Prince Ho is willing to punish such a beauty, admirable. Her temperament is too arrogant, how can she not be punished?" Wuman laughed lightly, "Today is Prince Ho's birthday, let's pardon her misdeeds. Besides, there are a lot of nobles who wish to take a look at Madame Ziyuan's appearance today." Hearing what Wuman said, Ho Shuolin laughed loudly. "What young masterin said is right, let's pardon her misdeeds then. Men, bring Madame Ziyuan over." "Yes." After receiving the order, the two imperial guards immediately went to bring Madame Ziyuan over. However, what they didn't know was that Madame Ziyuan was already in trouble. "Prince Ho, there is a matter that I wish to ask of you." Wuman placed the folding fan beside the teacup and said with a serious expression. Ho Shuolin nodded and said, "Young masterin, what are you saying? You are the most popular person by the crown prince's side, even I have to be courteous to you." Prince Ho must be joking, the crown prince still has to address you respectfully as Prince Ho. Young masterin, if there is anything that you need, just say it. If it is something that I can do, I will naturally do it. Ho Shuolin said with a smile. Wuman said gravely, "The crown prince received a secret report that the descendants of Nuwa who had disappeared for a long time seem to have reappeared." "Oh. There is such a matter." Ho Shuolin paused for a moment, then said with doubt. After hearing what Wuman said, Che Hongliang was startled as well, then placed down the teacup. "The descendants of Nuwa. They have disappeared for a long time, and back then, they had disappeared together with the Eastern Emperor clan." Ho Shuolin smiled, then picked up the teapot and poured the green tea into the teacup, causing a delightful fragrance to drift out. "That's right, Nuwa and the Eastern Emperor clan were extremely famous back then, and the females of the Eastern Emperor clan were extremely beautiful." Ho Shuolin said faintly. Wuman nodded in agreement. The crown prince spent a lot of effort to obtain this information, and furthermore, this plane is under the jurisdiction of Prince Ho. "Impossible, such a matter actually happened within my jurisdiction." Ho Shuolin exclaimed in admiration. "The crown prince is also afraid of breaking the rules, so he sent me over to inform the crown prince." "Inform the crown prince?" Ho Shuolin's expression sank. "Isn't the crown prince stepping too far?" Che Hongliang laughed lightly. "Since it is within Prince Ho's jurisdiction, how can we trouble the crown prince to personally go over? Prince Ho can just send a few people over." "That's even better." Wuman didn't refute. The words that he said just now was also the crown prince's intention. Wuman wanted to take down Prince Ho's prestige and let Prince Ho know that the crown prince isn't someone to be trifled with. "I will naturally send people over to investigate," Ho Shuolin said with a smile. In actuality, he wished that he could scold the crown prince in his heart. "After all, I was the one who placed the Eastern Emperor clan down there for the sake of the Eastern Emperor bloodline. However, up until now, no one in the Eastern Emperor clan has awakened the power of the Eastern Emperor bloodline. On the contrary, the hidden Nuwa bloodline has awakened, and even the crown prince found out about it. This is going to be a bit troublesome." "That's great, His Highness the crown prince will be very happy." The corner of Wumaan's mouth curled up into a complacent smile as he picked up the folding fan once again. This folding fan was an ancient godly item. Right at this moment, the two imperial guards returned, and one of the imperial guards leaned over and whispered a few words into Ho Shuolin's ears. Chapter 381. That is such a pity, I didn't get to see Madame Zi Yuan's beauty. Wu Man laughed lightly, then picked up the teacup and took a sip. Che Hongliang sighed lightly. A lot of people are going to be disappointed today. I thought that your highness is hiding a mistress and is unwilling to come out. Sigh, this woman is shy, she is embarrassed to come out and meet people. Next time, next time. Ho Shuolin said with a smile. This Si Shan actually ran to the secular world to escape from me. If I capture her back this time, watch how I teach her a lesson. After being married for a few months, I won't even let you touch her. If not for me, you wouldn't even have a place to stand. It will be the royal hunt in a few days, young masterin, you have to remind the crown prince to perform well. Che Hongliang said lightly. Rather than saying that it was an instruction, it was more like a disguised form of mockery. After all, Che Hongliang's sister was the empress, and the empress's son was not the crown prince. It was inevitable for the empress to be a bit dissatisfied, and thus, she had to help her son to the throne. That was why Che Hongliang and Wu Man were in opposing camps, while Ho Shuolin did not stand on either side. The two of them had been talking to each other many times, but Ho Shuolin was just playing dumb. Wu Man smiled. Your highness is proficient in both the pen and the sword, you will naturally be able to perform outstandingly in the hunt. That is good. Che Hongliang said indifferently. Alright, today is my birthday, let's go out and have a drink. The three of them stood up and walked towards the front courtyard, while Ho Shuolin looked for his personal guard, Lin Hong, and told him to bring some people to the secular world to look for Madame Zi Yuan. Lin Hong was a man who looked to be in his 30s, he had a square face and an unyielding aura. After receiving His Highness' order, Lin Hong called two of his trusted subordinates to go to the secular world to look for Madame Zi Yuan and look for the three big shots. The three of them instantly arrived at the location where Madame Zi Yuan came from. Looking at the ruins in front of them, Lin Hong deeply wrinkled his brows. This is Ji family, one of the three big shots in the secular world. What is the difference between this place and a ghost town? Brother Lin, there is a godly aura here. A skinny man shouted. His name was San Chi, and he was someone that Lin Hong had saved. In order to repay his kindness, San Chi had been following Lin Hong. At this moment, another tall man walked forward and sensed the aura. Brother Lin, the aura is very dense, it should be Madame Zi Yuan. This person was called Li Li. Just like his name, the muscles all over his body looked like they were about to explode. After obtaining Lin Hong's recognition, he had been following him. Lin Hong's expression was very solemn as he scanned the surroundings. Madame Zi Yuan must have encountered some trouble. How is it possible for someone from such a low-level world to be able to harm Madame Zi Yuan? San Chi cried out in surprise, not daring to believe what was happening. Lin Hong shouted in a deep voice, San Chi, how many times have I taught you, don't underestimate the enemy? Yes. San Chi lowered his head and answered. Although Li Li appeared to be tall and big, he was definitely someone with brains. Brother Lin, from the looks of it, this Ji family has been exterminated. It is possible that Madame Zi Yuan only appeared after she sensed that something was amiss, and after that, she ran into those people. Li Li, your deduction is very correct. It is impossible for Madame Zi Yuan to come down here for no reason at all. Madame Zi Yuan must have seen that there is a problem with Ji family, thus, she came down here to stop Madame Zi Yuan, but unexpectedly, she was captured by someone. Lin Hong felt that something was amiss. But, who is capable of capturing Madame Zi Yuan? San Chi's head hurt from thinking about it. Although she was a god, her brain was the same. There were also people with low IQ. Lin Hong said in a deep voice, we came down for this matter. Let's take a look at the situation of the other two giants and ask them about the situation. Yes. Yes. After finished speaking, the three disappeared from the spot. Within Voidless Realm. Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji sat in Dong Huang Li's small courtyard. Dong Huang Li was currently sleeping in her mother's embrace, and Dong Huang Li was mumbling, "Ali misses daddy." When the two women heard Ali sleep talking, they smiled helplessly. However, within the smile, there was also bitterness. A month had passed, and Yihua still didn't come to look for them. Naturally, Yihua felt uncomfortable in his heart. No matter what, his wife ran away from home. As a husband, he should at least coax his wife. However, this Yihua didn't even say a single word to his wife. Qinya rubbed onto her belly that was already bulging out, and a gentle look could be seen on her beautiful face. After becoming a mother soon, Qinya's temperament seemed to have calmed down, and she wasn't as irritable and easily angry as before. There really isn't a single clue at all. Dong Huang Baiji was very puzzled. During the past month, she and Qinya had investigated all of the details, and yet, they were unable to find any clue at all. Either the matter was real, or the matter was concealed very well. There shouldn't be any clue at Yihua's side as well. If there was, he would have already done something long ago. Qinya said lightly. Feeling the little life in her belly, her mood became much better. Yihua is really too much. Your belly is already so round, no matter what, he still has to come and take a look at you. Dong Huang Baiji felt that it was unfair for Qinya. I gave birth to Ali all by myself. Could it be that Qinya is going to walk down the same path as me? Qinya said faintly, just let him be. If worse comes to worst, I will take care of him myself in the future. Qinya, are you angry? Dong Huang Baiji was still able to tell that a pregnant woman ran away from home, and her husband still doesn't care about her at all. This matter was different from me. Yihua knew that Qinya was pregnant. Qinya shook her head. Do I dare to be angry at him? He is the boss. Qinya, how about we send someone back? Dong Huang Baiji asked. After not seeing each other for a month, it would be a lie if she said that she didn't miss Yihua. In actuality, being apart for a month was also beneficial. It allowed the two of them to clearly understand their feelings for each other. You aren't going to send Ali back, right? Qinya cried out in surprise. During this period of time, Ali has been calling me daddy every day. I am about to become a sinner. Dong Huang Baiji smiled bitterly as she lightly caressed onto her daughter's forehead. Qinya nodded her head. That's true. It has been a long time since Yihua last saw Ali. We can also ask Ali's daddy to inquire about some information. Dong Huang Baiji seemed to feel that this idea was not bad. Qinya laughed lightly. Ali is about to become a little spy because of you. I suddenly feel that I should just let Yihua teach her. Qinya, whose side are you standing on? Be careful, Yihua might turn your son into a demon king. At the very least, if he becomes a demon king, he won't be bullied by others. Qinya said faintly. Standing from a mother's perspective, Qinya naturally hoped that her son would grow up happily and be able to accomplish something after he grows up. Of course, the precondition was that her son wouldn't be bullied by others. Whoever dares to bully my son, as a mother, I, as her son, will definitely fight with my life on the line. Your Majesty, 3 outsiders suddenly barged into Voidless Realm, and they claimed to be gods. An Imperial Guard hurriedly ran over and reported the emergency situation. Dong Huang Baiji's brows wrinkled. Baiji, leave Ali to me, quickly go and take a look at what is going on. Qinya said gravely. 3 gods suddenly came. Could it be related to Ji family's matter? Dong Huang Baiji nodded her head, then handed her daughter over to Qinya, then disappeared from the courtyard. Yuanda and the others were all waiting in the palace, and in the middle of the palace stood 3 men. Chapter 382. Among the 3 big powers, Voidless Realm's barrier was the strongest, and it gave people the feeling that Voidless Realm was protected by a king. However, wasn't there another possibility as well? rearing them in captivity. Arranging the Eastern Emperor family within their jurisdiction and waiting for the Eastern Emperor's bloodline to awaken. Perhaps they wanted to absorb the bloodline, or perhaps they had other motives. Yuanda and the others bowed and stood at the two sides. They could clearly feel the godly might that the three of them were emitting out. They didn't expect that 1,000 years later, a god would appear once again. Their hearts were restless. Why did they come here? Looking at their expressions, they don't seem to be in a good mood. Dong Wang Baiji finished changing her clothes in her bedroom, then slowly walked into the palace and looked at the three people in the palace. This was also the first time that Lin Hong and the others saw Dong Wang Baiji, and their eyes revealed a look of surprise. Her appearance is actually above Madame Zi Yuan's, and the aura that was emitting out from her body is even more similar to that of a king. If not for the difference in status, I would have already kneeled down just now. Sanchi was very unhappy. A mere person from a low-grade world actually made me have the urge to kneel down and worship. Sanchi shouted out, "Eastern Emperor family, why are you not paying respects to the gods?" Only Marquis Wang Ye's trusted aides knew about the Eastern Emperor family's arrangement, and other people naturally didn't know about it. Dong Wang Baiji looked at the three of them and felt the faint godly might that the three of them were giving off. These three people are indeed gods, there is no mistake about it. Just that, this god sure has a big tone. If not for Voidless Realm's rule that was passed down from generation to generation, Dong Wang Baiji wouldn't even bother to converse with them. Dong Wang Baiji slightly leaned forward and said faintly, "Dong Wang Baiji pays respects to the gods." What kind of attitude is this? Sanchi reprimanded harshly. Lin Hong raised his hand, indicating to Sanchi not to speak carelessly. "Dong Wang Baiji, although you are a person with power in this world, you are not a king. You are nothing, please be a bit more respectful." "King?" Dong Wang Baiji asked confusedly. Lin Hong said faintly, "There are some things that you know too much about, it is not a good thing." Dong Wang Baiji had been an empress for a very long time, and this was the first time that she met such a rude person. This is a god. He didn't seem to have the slightest intention of showing respect. In actuality, the reason why Dong Wang Baiji had such an attitude towards Dong Wang Baiji was also due to Yihua, because Yihua would often have a heart-to-heart talk with Dong Wang Baiji when he was sleeping. Although the things that Yihua talked to Dong Wang Baiji about weren't very big, Dong Wang Baiji deeply felt that she didn't need to listen to anyone else's orders in her life. "Deity, is there a reason why you have come here today?" Dong Wang Baiji asked indifferently. Her expression was the same as before, and she did not have the slightest bit of intention of backing down. San Qi and Li Li's faces darkened. It seemed like they wanted to teach him a lesson. Although Lin Hong was angry, His Highness valued the Dong Wang clan very much, and there couldn't be any mishaps. Lin Hong said in a deep voice, "Your attitude today, I will report it to His Highness. Bear the consequences yourself. I, the Empress, am naturally able to bear the responsibility." Dong Wang Baiji said calmly. She slowly sat on the throne and looked down at the three of them. Lin Hong coldly snorted, "That's fine, I hope you can endure His Highness' anger." The expressions of Yuanda and the others abruptly changed. They didn't understand why the Empress had suddenly become so domineering. This was a god. He can easily destroy Voidless Realm, I can't offend him. If Yihua was here, he would definitely praise his wife. My woman doesn't need to fear anyone and anything. If they can't defeat me, I will call them husband, I will let them experience what deep despair is. If the three of you don't have anything else, you can leave Voidless Realm. Hearing that the Empress was going to expel the three of them, Yuanda's heart sunk. She really isn't giving me any face at all. Lin Hong didn't expect that this Dong Wang Baiji would be so arrogant. If not for His Highness, I would have started a massacre today. Taking a deep breath, Yihua calmed down the anger within his body. "Dong Wang Baiji, I have a few things to ask you." Speak. Lin Hong had seen formidable people before, but he had never seen such a formidable woman before. That Madame Zi Yuan was very formidable too, but in the end, she was still defeated by His Highness and then accepted into his harem. It was just that they had never seen a formidable woman before. If they had seen a formidable woman before, their attitude would definitely not be like this. How did Ji family get destroyed? Lin Hong asked gravely. So the reason why these deities came down is to ask about Ji family. Thinking about it, it is normal. I am only in charge of the north, and I am not very clear about what happened to Ji family. When I arrived at Ji family was already in ruins. Dong Wang Baiji said. Have you seen this woman before? Lin Hong took out a portrait of a woman. Dong Wang Baiji looked at the woman in the portrait. She looks so familiar. Where have I seen this woman before? Where have I seen this woman before? That's right. That's Yi Shan. Yi Hong's wife. My God, is that Yi Shan a deity? And Yi Hong is Yi Hua's underling. Dong Wang Baiji's mind was a bit confused, but she mustn't be confused right now, because Yi Hua had caused a huge trouble. I have never seen her before. What relationship does the woman in the portrait have with Ji family? Dong Wang Baiji asked. Lin Hong kept the portrait and said faintly, this woman is His Highness's concubine, and the last place that she appeared was at Ji family. Dong Wang Baiji's heart sunk, then said calmly, so that's how it is. Since you don't know, then forget about it. However, I will report everything that you did today to His Highness. After finished speaking, Lin Hong brought his men and disappeared, heading towards Ying family to greet them. After the three of them left, Dong Wang Baiji sat on the throne and went into a daze. After connecting all these things together, everything becomes clear. I have to discuss this matter with Qinya. Your Majesty. Yuan De shouted out. All of you can leave. After finished speaking, Dong Wang Baiji appeared in the courtyard. What happened? Qinya carried Dong Wang Li and asked concernedly. Dong Wang Baiji signaled the maid to carry her daughter into the house to sleep. Looking at Dong Wang Baiji's expression, Qinya knew that it wasn't a good thing. Afterward, Dong Wang Baiji told Qinya about what happened just now. The deities came because of Ji family's matter. Dong Wang Baiji shook her head and said gravely, no, to be precise, they came to look for a woman. Woman? Do you still remember the godly might that you felt at Ji family that day? That is the woman that they are looking for. Qinya's gaze was filled with doubt, then asked, is it related to Yi Hua? As expected of the woman that Yi Hua regards highly, to be able to think of my man for everything. Dong Wang Baiji nodded her head. This caused Qinya to exclaim in admiration. Furthermore, we know that woman. No. This time, Qinya was even more astonished. She is Yi Hong's wife. Zi Shan. Ah. It's her. Qinya stood up in shock. Dong Wang Baiji hurriedly held on to Qinya, be careful of the child. That's right, it is Zi Shan. Furthermore, this Zi Shan is some king's concubine. Qinya slowly sat down, then said with a taut face, the cigarette ash that we found at Ji family that day. To actually not inform the Supreme Overlord that you are treating us. Do you want to die? If Yi Hong has the guts to go and treat you, you are a Supreme Overlord, would you even care about a meal like this? However, the current Yi Hua indeed cared about it very much. Wherever there is food to eat, I will freeload there, and I still have to maintain the demeanor of a Supreme Overlord. However, upon thinking about Little Red, Yi Hua thought about that Zi Shan. I wonder how their situation is, I forgot about this matter. Calculating the time, it should be around 2 months, right? Has this Little Red gotten Zi Shan yet? If she didn't, Yi Hua stood there and waited for Wei Chang to invite him. Could it be that I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to take the initiative to go? Wei Chang felt that his honor wanted to say something, so he lowered his head and listened to his honor. Seems like Zhu Tian is still the brains of the team. Boss, how about we go together? Tang Wei, who was at the side, said respectfully. Yi Hua said reluctantly, I, the Supreme Overlord, will go and take a look then. Qin Yutong wanted to laugh, but she didn't dare to. Brother-in-law really wants everything. He clearly wants to freeload a meal, but he is too embarrassed to ask for it. Wei Chang's current car was a Cayenne, which was a bit more high-end than Yi Hua's A8. Once again, Qin Yutong's words were verified. Tang Wei was driving, Wei Chang was sitting at the front passenger seat, and Yi Hua and Qin Yutong were sitting at the back. Wei Chang turned his head around and asked, Your Honor, is there a reason why you came here today? I went to visit Lai Gu yesterday, so I came here today to see how you are doing. Yi Hua said indifferently. Wei Chang immediately felt overwhelmed by the favor. Your Honor is truly considerate toward subordinates. That is natural. Qin Yutong really wanted to expose brother-in-law's true colors. He just ran out to freeload a meal because he has no food to eat. That's right, how are Yi Hong and Zishan getting along? Yi Hua asked. Wei Chang paused for a moment, then said, the relationship between the two is much better than before, just that, they have yet to reach His Honor's request. Oh. Zishan isn't pregnant yet. She isn't. Chapter 384. The heart of Tang Wei, who was driving, also sunk. Even Wei Chang felt that His Honor's words had a hidden meaning. Is His Honor talking about me? Wei Chang said with a smile, Your Honor, the gap between Yi Hong and Zishan's status is too big, and they need to get used to each other. Besides, isn't there still half a month left? Who knows, maybe I'm pregnant. Not necessarily. If that Zishan is still the same as before, then let's just kill her. Yi Hua said faintly. I hate the feeling of gods acting high and mighty the most. Even I, the Supreme Overlord, do not act so pretentiously. Of course, Wei Chang wouldn't object. Yes. Qin Yutong, who was at the side, also didn't say anything, because Qin Yutong knew that even if she said anything, it would be useless. If Qinya was here, she would definitely stop him. This was also the difference between the two sisters. They each had their own unique characteristics. Half an hour later, they finally arrived at the villa where the Green and Red brothers lived. Wei Chang got off the car and opened the door respectfully. Yi Hua and Qin Yutong looked at the villa in front of them and sighed with emotion. Qin Yutong pulled her brother-in-law, seemingly saying, Look at your little brother's little brother, he is living even more freely than you. Let's go. Yi Hua said faintly. No matter how carefree he is still my subordinate, and I can take back everything that I have bestowed upon him. As Wei Chang and Tang Wei led the way, Tang Wei pressed the doorbell. Very quickly, the door was opened, and the person who opened the door was Zishan. Zishan could be seen wearing a white apron and seemed to be cooking. When Zishan opened the door, there was a trace of a smile on her face. However, when Zishan saw Yi Hua, who was outside, she immediately retracted that trace of smile, as if she had seen a ghost. Yi Hua saw this action of hers. Seems like in just a month's time, there is indeed some change, but it is not a big change. In actuality, Zishan's change in this 1 month was quite big. In the past, she was hostile towards everyone. But now, at the very least, she was no longer hostile towards Wei Chang and Tang Wei. At the very least, when Zishan opened the door just now, she revealed a slight smile. From this, it could be seen that Zishan was very happy. At this time, the Green and Red brothers hurriedly came out of the Green and Red brothers and greeted respectfully, Your Honor. Go in. Yi Hua said faintly. He was very dissatisfied with Zishan's attitude. Yi Hong seemed to have sensed it as well. This shouldn't be the case. Zishan's attitude towards me has clearly changed during this period of time. In the past, he was always cold and sarcastic. Now, he would smile from time to time and speak more often. The most obvious thing was that Zishan had started learning how to cook. Furthermore, he was exceptionally meticulous. When he was cooking, he referred to the teachings on the internet and was extremely precise in how many grams of sugar and how many grams of salt to add. The food that Zishan made was naturally very delicious. At the very least, Yi Hong was able to truly understand Zishan's intentions. Although there was no skin-to-skin contact, Yi Hong was already very satisfied with this kind of life. Yi Hong had almost forgotten about the deadline of 2 months. And today, his honor's sudden arrival shattered Yi Hong's beautiful dream, causing Yi Hong to think of the 2-month promise. Yi Hong wasn't the only one who thought of this, Zishan had also thought of it. I feel that his honor came over this time for this matter. But none of you could have imagined it. However, when he saw Zishan's attitude, he seemed to have changed his mind. Walking into the villa, Yi Hua sat on the sofa, while Qing Yutong sat at the side and peeled oranges for her brother-in-law. However, the others stood to the side, not daring to do anything. Why are you all standing here? Those who need to cook, go cook. Yi Hua said faintly. I only ate instant noodles for lunch, and I am a bit hungry. If I don't train my fleshly body, I won't be able to do anything. Zishan went to the kitchen, and Tang Wei followed her to help. Brother-in-law, here. Qing Yutong peeled an orange and passed it to Yi Hua. Yi Hua took over the cup and said faintly, everyone, sit. Thank you, Your Honor. Big Brother Green was also worried for little brother. Today, when his honor comes up, he will definitely ask about it. Wei Chang felt helpless. This orange is rather sweet. Yi Hua couldn't help but say. Qing Yutong, on the other hand, was rather tactful as she laughed, brother-in-law, let me peel another one for you. And after pausing for a moment, Yi Hua asked faintly, Yi Hong, how have you been recently? Yi Hong suddenly stood up, appearing to be very nervous. Your Honor, I have been doing well recently. Zishan, who was in the kitchen, turned her head around and looked at Yi Hong, feeling worried in her heart. Tang Wei, who was at the side, asked in a low voice, Zishan, did you and Yi Hong do that? Hearing that, Zishan's face turned slightly red, then shook her head. Zishan, there is still some time left, you two better hurry up. Tang Wei reminded Zishan. In the beginning, I felt that Yi Hong and Zishan weren't compatible, but after getting to know each other, they were actually quite good, the two of them complemented each other. Zishan remained silent. Originally, I thought that I would be able to spend the last moments of my life like this, but as time passes, I feel more and more reluctant to part with Yi Hong. Even Zishan can't say what she is reluctant to part with. Is it Yi Hong? Perhaps. After Yi Hua, who was sitting on the sofa, heard what Zishan said, he nodded his head, then asked, have you two slept with each other yet? Yi Hong's heart sunk. As expected, it still came. Your Honor, not yet. Yi Hong didn't dare to lie to Yi Hua. Is she not willing? Yi Hong hurriedly explained to Zishan, Your Honor, you misunderstood, it is my problem. Young people can't do it just because of this. Go and buy some medicine to eat. Yi Hua shook his head. This person's physique is not good enough. Your Honor has misunderstood, I am the one who is not prepared. Yi Hua's gaze turned cold, it is you who is not willing. It is she who is not willing. It is I who is not willing. Zishan, who was in the kitchen, suddenly walked out and shouted out. After hearing that, Yi Hong's expression changed, then explained, Your Honor, it is subordinate who is not willing, it has nothing to do with Zishan. Qin Yutong finally understood what was going on. In actuality, the two of them liked each other, and it was just that Zishan couldn't put down her face. Yihua said gravely, "Since the two of you are not willing, let's have our last meal today." Yihong was frightened, and she immediately knelt in front of Yihua. "Your Honor, I am willing to bear any responsibility for Zishan." Yihua took the orange from his sister-in-law's hand. "Don't say anything now, let's eat first." "Your Honor," Wei Chang shouted out gravely, "Yihong." He warned Yihong not to anger his honor anymore. Yihong took a look at Zishan and discovered that Zishan's eyes were red. "What are you still standing there for? Quickly go and cook." Yihua looked at Zishan, who was standing there motionlessly, and shouted out gravely, "Why is this woman so foolish? Doesn't she know how to please me? She is still resisting even now." These women nowadays, it is even harder for them to lower their heads than to reach the heavens. Wei Chang took a look at Tang Wei, and the latter pulled Zishan into the kitchen. However, right now, Zishan was no longer in the mood to cook. Tang Wei was able to understand Zishan's feelings, and she began to cook herself. Just now, when Zishan saw Yihong pleading for her and kneeling down, Zishan felt her heart ache. "This is a feeling that I have never felt before." And when he said that today is his last meal, he should be trying to kill me, right? Looking at Yihong, who was sitting there not saying a word, Zishan suddenly felt a bit reluctant to die. This was not because she was afraid of death, but rather, she was reluctant to part with Yihong. The scene of Yihong taking revenge for her couldn't help but appear in Zishan's mind, and her heart immediately began to ache faintly. Yihua had successfully instigated a deity to rebel against him. To be more precise, it was Yihong who moved a deity with her sincerity. Chapter 385. Brother-in-law, it's almost time to eat. I'll fill my stomach first. Wei Chang and the others were a little puzzled. Is his honor hungry? Yihua knew that he spoke too quickly and said in a deep voice, "Recently, I like fruits." So that's how it was. Qin Yutong smiled but did not say anything. While holding on to the apple, she carefully peeled it. Half an hour later, the meal was finally ready, and the sky outside gradually darkened. "Your Honor, can we start eating now?" Tang Wei walked over and asked respectfully. Yihua stood up. "Open it." Qin Yutong also joined the team that carried the dishes. F***ck, it has been a long time since I have seen such a sumptuous dinner. Ever since they left, my life seems to have returned to how it was in the past, and I feel very uncomfortable. The three women sat on one side, the three men sat on the other side, and Yihua sat on the main seat. "Let's eat, what are you still in a daze for?" Yihua said faintly, then took the initiative to pick up the chopsticks and have a taste. It feels pretty good. Life with a woman is so comfortable. Qin Yutong was also not courteous. After following her brother-in-law for the past few days, she was almost starving to death. Qin Yutong could disregard her image and eat whatever she wanted, but Yihua couldn't. He had to follow his honor's eating method. What does his honor's eating method mean? In the end, when he saw his sister-in-law wolfing down the food, he glared fiercely at her. "I haven't even started eating yet, and you have already finished a bowl." However, Yihong and Zishan, who were sitting on the dining table, did not have much of an appetite. Their bowl of rice had almost turned into porridge. Yihua saw this, but he didn't say anything. It was their own choice. However, for Wei Chang and Tang Wei, this was the most boring meal they had ever eaten. It should be said that when I am eating together with his honor, I am unable to let go of myself. Even the sound of chewing has to be suppressed, fearing that it will affect his honor's appetite. Half an hour later, this boring meal finally ended. Other than Yihua and Qin Yutong, everyone else felt incomparably stifled. Qin Yutong didn't have that kind of feeling that other people had. Of course, this was all thanks to Qinya. If not, how could Qin Yutong have the title of sister-in-law? Qin Yutong's backer was not just an ordinary person. After the meal, Yihua sat on the sofa and ate fruits, while the girls were washing the dishes in the kitchen. Bang! The sound of plates breaking rang out from the kitchen. Yihua turned his head around and took a look, and Zishan was standing there in a daze. Tang Wei said, "Zishan, let me do it, you go out and rest." "No need." Qin Yutong, who was at the side, let out a breath. Is face really that important? Big sister is also like this. Even now, she is still unable to put down her face. Seems like only by being shameless can one be unparalleled under the heavens, just like me, ha. 10 minutes later, the bowl was finally washed, which meant that something bad had happened. It seemed like Zishan didn't want to face this, and she actually picked up a mop to clean the floor. It was as if he wanted to clean the house even if he had to die. Of course, perhaps he was stalling for time and wanted to stay a little longer. Qin Yutong and Tang Wei seemed to have sensed it and looked at Yihua, who was sitting on the sofa, but did not say anything. 1 hour later, Zishan finally finished cleaning the bathroom, and said lightly, "I'm going to take a bath." Yihua didn't stop them. When Zishan reappeared, she was wearing the same set of clothes that she was wearing when she first came here. "I'll just go back to how I came here." Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then looked at Zishan, who was standing in front of him. Of course, there was also Yi Hong, who had a taut expression on her face, and Big Brother Green, who was standing at the side with his brows tightly wrinkled. "Yi Hong, do you still remember what I said back then?" Yihua said. Yi Hong lowered her head and said, "I remember." "Repeat what I said one more time." Yi Hong paused, and even his fingers were trembling. He wanted to say something, but he was unable to say anything. However, Zishan said faintly, "If I am not able to get pregnant within 2 months, Yi Hong will personally kill me." Yihua nodded his head. "Although it hasn't been 2 months yet, it seems like the two of you don't want to get pregnant, then." Yihua could be seen taking out a sword that was emitting a faint golden light, and on the sword, there was a vivid and lifelike golden dragon engraved on the sword. Yihua casually threw the heaven-defying weapon onto the coffee table. "This is the Dragon Rebel sword, Yi Hong, do it." This situation caused Wei Chang to be confused. Is his honor serious, or is he just scaring us? Qin Yutong and Tang Wei also became nervous. Zishan looked at the Dragon Rebel sword on the coffee table and seemed to have accepted her fate. Today, between Zishan and Yi Hong, one of them will naturally die. If the ending is like this, then I will just let myself receive the punishment that I deserve. Yi Hong, do it. With trembling hands, Yi Hong picked up the Dragon Rebel sword from the tea table, looked at Zishan, and then knelt on the ground with a plop. "Your Honor, I am willing to receive punishment in Zishan's place." Right when Yihua was about to say something, Wei Chang's expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly sent a private message to his honor. "Your Honor, Death Mage has sent news over. 3 deities have gone to Ying family, and it seems like they are looking for Zishan." Hearing that, Yihua's brows wrinkled. Seems like this deity is finally making a move. And here I thought that the deity was an idiot. Wei Chang, telling family's people to tell them that the person is here. Yes. Letting out a breath, Yihua looked at Yi Hong, who was kneeling down, and said faintly, "Yi Hong, do you think that she will care about you when you are like this? This subordinate is willing to do this." Yi Hong said in a low voice. "As long as his honor is willing to spare Zishan's life, I am willing to do anything." Yihua nodded his head, seemingly agreeing with what Yi Hong said. Soon after, Yihua said, "Yi Hong, I can agree to your request, and I can even remove the restriction between the two of you." It was too sudden. Yi Hong had never expected this. She was so shocked that she didn't know what to say. Zishan didn't expect that Yihua would let her off. You two are still too young. Yihua had just changed his mind. Yihong, are you willing to use all of your strength to exchange for her freedom? Yihua asked. This kind of choice was very difficult for a person to make. Strength, this was a world where strength was respected. Without strength, Yihong would still be that little hooligan from before. With strength, Yihong would be able to stand above a lot of people. However, to use all of one's strength to exchange for the freedom of a woman who didn't like them, it seemed like a lot of people already had their own answer. However, Yihong was still Yihong. He didn't become arrogant just because he had powerful strength. Your Honor, I am willing. Yihong, you have to think this through clearly. There is a possibility that she will return to Ying family, and you will become nothing. Yihua reminded once again. Your Honor, I have already made up my mind. Thank you, Your Honor, for taking care of me during this period of time. I have failed to live up to Your Honor's expectations. Big Brother Green sighed. How many men are willing to give up everything for a woman? I thought that all of those women were fake, but I didn't expect that my little brother was the same as well. Yihua said gravely, all right. Yihua stretched out his hand and immediately sucked out Yihong's ability. Black mist drilled out from Yihong's eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, causing Yihong to howl out in pain. At this moment, only then did Zishan come back to her senses and shouted out miserably, no. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.